John Harris wasn't always poor. Once, he was a decorated veteran, saluted by crowds and respected for his service. But medals don't buy groceries, and honor doesn't pay rent. When he returned home, his life was swallowed by hospital bills, endless prescriptions for his injuries, and a system that left him invisible. His wife had left years ago, tired of the struggle, and his son had stopped calling. All John had now was a rundown apartment, a pension barely enough to survive, and the quiet dignity of a man who refused to beg. On a cold morning, John limped toward the local diner where he washed dishes to earn a few extra dollars. His bad leg ached from the winter chill, but worse was the letter waiting for him in his mailbox. It was from a loan company, one he had turned to when his medical bills piled too high. The words were merciless: "You owe $10,000. Pay in full immediately or face consequences." John crumpled the paper in his fist, his heart pounding. He didn't even have $100 to spare. But it wasn't long before the consequences arrived. 3 men showed up that evening. Rough voices, leather jackets, the kind of men who smelled of smoke and power. They cornered John outside his building. "You've had your time, old man," one snarled. $10,000. Now. Or we'll take everything you've got left." John's lips trembled. "I don't have it. I barely make enough to eat." The men laughed, mocking him. "You're a veteran, aren't you? Should have fought harder for your own life. Too bad bravery doesn't pay the bills." One shoved him against the wall. Another sneered, "Maybe we'll take that old car of yours. Or better yet, maybe you should leave this place altogether. Men like you don't belong in a neighborhood like this." Their laughter rang through the night. John staggered back inside his apartment, heartbroken but not defeated. He sat at his small wooden table, staring at a single photograph of him in uniform. Strong, proud, respected. And in that silence, John remembered something he had locked away for years. A promise. A letter. And a key. What the men didn't know was that John Harris had been keeping a secret that could change everything. The night stretched on as John opened the small metal box hidden under his bed. Inside lay a bundle of letters, old papers yellowed with time, and a silver key. His hand trembled as he pulled out the one document that mattered most. It was a will. Decades ago, while serving overseas, John had saved the life of a wealthy businessman's only son. The grateful man, who owned vast properties back in the States, had written John into his will as a silent benefactor. John never thought much of it, assuming the man's fortune would never reach him. But last year, while John was drowning in bills, a lawyer had contacted him. The businessman had passed away, leaving John shares in a real estate company. Shares that had quietly grown in value until they were worth millions. John never told anyone. Not the neighbors, not the men who mocked him. He wanted to live simply, proving to himself that dignity wasn't about money. But now, facing humiliation and threats, John realized it was time to let the truth breathe. The next morning, as the debt collectors circled again, John walked straight past them without flinching. He went downtown, into the grand glass office of the real estate company that bore the businessman's name. When he showed the lawyer his papers, the man smiled knowingly. "Mr. Harris," the lawyer said, shaking his hand firmly. "It's about time you came forward. You are now one of the majority stakeholders. Half this neighborhood, the apartments, the stores, even the diner you work in, legally belongs to you." John's knees weakened. The poor veteran, mocked and pushed aside, now owned half the streets where people once pitied him. That evening, when the debt collectors came demanding their $10,000, John stepped out, not as a broken man, but as their new landlord. His voice was steady, almost calm. "Funny thing," he said, holding out the legal documents. "You came here demanding money from me. But starting today, you pay rent to me. So tell me, gentlemen, who owes who now?" Their faces drained of color. The laughter was gone. For the first time in years, John Harris stood tall, his dignity shining brighter than any medal ever had. And the neighborhood that once mocked him would soon learn the greatest lesson of all: never underestimate the quiet man with nothing to lose, because sometimes, he's the one holding everything you need.